In this segment, we'll watch British journalist Lewis Goodall thoroughly dismantle and disprove the blatant falsehoods spread by these far-right conservatives on PiersMorgan Uncensored. As always, we'll check out the full clip first, and I'll share my opinions at the end.
Thank you so much for having me, Piers. It's obviously still very raw for a lot of us. I'm finding myself very caught between, on the one hand, wanting to honor his legacy of unity through debate and coming together to take down the temperature, and then wanting to honor his legacy of telling the truth. And the truth is, this is not a both sides issue. The killer killed him, according to police reports, because he found Charlie Kirk to be spreading hate. This is a view shared by every single prominent Democrat. Yes, there are people on Blue Sky advocating for violence, but what actually caused this was the utterly quotidian, utterly ubiquitous demonization of the political opposition from the left. And it has just led to violence because they said the other side were Hitler and Nazis. They said that speech is violence. To combine those two things together is to sign the death warrant of prominent conservatives. And that is what we are seeing again and again and again. And it is utterly facetious to suggest that there is any comparison between political violence on both sides. Every example they bring is not actually showing that, whether it's Governor Shapiro, whose attempted assassination was from a Free Palestine leftist, or whether it was the Minnesota assassinations, which were from somebody who said he was operating at the behest of Democrat Governor Tim Walz. There is a culture among Democrats at the highest level to suggest that their political opposition are a danger, and that suggests that their lives are forfeit. And I want to come together. I do. I love what Shank said. It brought tears to my eyes. I had to reach for a tissue while you were playing Charlie's words. But at the same time, we cannot unite with people who are lying to our faces about who we are, who will not take responsibility for the fact that they suggested that we are Nazis because of totally legitimate views that reflect the majority of Americans. So what I say is, let the left say we were wrong. It is legitimate to vote for Donald Trump. It is legitimate to be pro-life. It is legitimate to believe that there are only two genders, and we were wrong to suggest that that was not the case. We were wrong to say that that is hateful. When they say that, I am waiting with open arms to take down the temperature.
Lewis Goodall, you are on the left, and the one thing that's really struck me about this, I don't dispute for a moment that there are people on the far right that commit a lot of acts of violence and would can be equally hateful. That's my personal view. But I have been truly shocked, genuinely truly shocked, by the sheer enormity of brazen, dehumanized calls on social media from people on the woke left, the sort of far left, which has been calling themselves progressive, but in my view are the opposite. But how they've reacted to Charlie Kirk's death, we've got a little mashup of some of it.
Ding dong, the witch is dead.
We think that Charlie Kirk just got shot in the neck. Hey, ooh, ah, ooh.
I would say pour one out for Kirky boy, but I don't waste good beer on little bitches.
Charlie Kirk just got put down like a fucking dog in Utah, and I could not be happier.
I will not ever feel bad when bad people get what the fuck they deserve.
Fucking stoked right now. You wanna know why I'm so fucking stoked? Fucking yes!
CK got AK'd, and he's gone.
He did say that gun deaths were an acceptable side effect of gun rights.
We got Charlie in the neck. We got Charlie in the neck.
There are hundreds, thousands maybe, more examples like this, but we've seen teachers, we've seen hospital executives, we've seen people who want to run places like the Oxford University Union, for example, and so on, all coming out with similar gleeful celebration at the murder of a 31-year-old father of 2 young children. I find it utterly despicable, but also quite terrifying, actually, that they're so brazenly doing this. What is your reaction to that?
Well, Piers, my reaction is that I think it's reprehensible. And I think it is part of a much wider pattern of behaviour, driven by partly social media, but in particular the hyperpolarisation of American politics, which is part of a big trend of legitimising violence, of making violence an acceptable means of prosecuting your politics. Where I would disagree, possibly with you, possibly with other members of the panel, is that this is somehow just confined to the left, or the idea that this is just happening on the left. Yes, there have been examples of that. We've just seen it just now. I was disgusted at the reaction to what happened with Luigi Manzioni earlier in the year. Very similar sort of phenomenon.
Yeah.
But let's see where it's happened in other parts of the right. Do you remember what happened with Paul Pelosi, for example? Nancy Pelosi's husband almost killed to death. What was the reaction of not just some random left-wing accounts, not some teacher, not whatever, but Don Jr., Donald Trump Jr.? He decided to put out a picture of a hammer and some underpants and say, I've got my Paul Pelosi Halloween costume tonight. This is the wider legitimization of violence that we're seeing. And let's just have a look. I mean, let's talk about some accounts that I've been looking at. You've been horrified what you've seen on Twitter, some stuff I've seen on Blue Sky, some stuff I've seen on X over the course of the last 24 hours. Liberals can never be allowed to run this country again. How can you coexist with people that want to murder you? If you vote Democrat at this point, you're a demonic, evil person. I will support whatever saves our country. Trump has a blank check as far as I'm concerned. I could go on, I could go on, and I could go on. And I could give a list of all of the many occasions we've seen in recent years of right-wing, hard-right, far-right terrorism that we saw against what happened in Minnesota. I mentioned Paul Pelosi, Josh Shapiro. In fact, I disagree with just as a matter of fact. Investigators found in the Shapiro case online activity and writings that included extreme right-wing, anti-Semitic conspiracy theories and rhetoric against Shapiro, who is, of course, Jewish and a Democrat, and in Michigan. And even in the last 24 hours or so, what do we see from Laura Loomer on Ilhan Omar, the Democratic Congresswoman, Laura Loomer being a very senior MAGA person? At the end of the day, everyone needs to realise that Ilhan Omar is a bloodthirsty Muslim terrorist sympathiser who has no place in our country. Her presence in Congress is a national security threat, and she's an enemy from within. So please, the idea that there is some sort of asymmetry on this, the fact of the matter is, America, and indeed the UK as well, we've got into a really negative cycle here, where basically the temperature goes up, and it goes up, and it goes up. And then sometimes some of the people who are responsible for that turn around and go, God, I can't believe it's so hot in here. Everyone needs to pull back from the brink. Social media needs to actually be reformed and needs to be changed. Elon Musk has been pretty responsible for some of this stuff that we've seen as well. So let's not pretend. If we pretend that this is just a problem of the left or of liberalism or of wokeism or whatever you want to say, this problem is not going to be any better or get any better. Let's use this as a moment for all of us to look within ourselves and decide to be better.
Okay, we've been
Uncensored. As is typical, let's watch the entire clip. I'll be sharing my thoughts at the end. Charlie Kirk got knocked down like a dirty dog in Utah, and I couldn't be more thrilled. I won't lose any sleep when folks who deserve it finally get what's coming to them. I'm absolutely ecstatic right now. Are you curious why I'm over the moon? Absolutely, yes. CK got taken down, and he's out of the picture. He once stated that gun fatalities are a tolerable trade-off for gun rights. Charlie, music. Look, there are countless examples, maybe even thousands of cases like this, where we've witnessed teachers, hospital leaders, and individuals vying to run institutions, like the Oxford University Union, all openly reveling in the murder of a 31-year-old father of 2 young kids. I find it not only despicable, but also quite frightening that they're doing it so openly. What are your thoughts on this? My perspective is that it's appalling and symptomatic of a broader behavior pattern, partly fueled by social media and, more specifically, the extreme polarization of American politics. This trend increasingly legitimizes violence as an acceptable mode of political expression. However, where I might diverge from you or maybe other panelists is in the belief that this is an issue exclusive to the left. Yes, incidents like this exist, as we've just seen. I was appalled by the reaction to what happened to Luigi Manzioni earlier this year, a similar situation. But let's consider the right's involvement, such as the assault on Paul Pelosi, Nancy Pelosi's spouse, who almost died. Responses didn't just come from random left-wing accounts or teachers, they came from Donald Trump Jr., who shared an image of a hammer underwear joking, Here's my Paul Pelosi Halloween outfit. That's the broader legitimation of violence unfolding. Furthermore, let's look at some accounts I've observed, some of which would leave you shocked, like those on Twitter, Blue Sky, and X in the past day. Claims like, liberals can never again be allowed to run this nation. How do you coexist with those who wish to harm you? Voting Democrat now means you're malevolent. I'll endorse whatever preserves our nation. Trump has carte blanche, as I see it. Could continue listing countless recent instances of right-wing and extreme right-wing terrorism like the violence in Minnesota. I mentioned Paul Pelosi and Josh Shapiro. Frankly, I disagree based on fact. Investigators found in Shapiro's case that online activities and writings included extreme right-wing, anti-Semitic conspiracy theories and rhetoric against Shapiro, who is Jewish and a Democrat. In Michigan, and indeed in the last day or so, what did Laura Loomer say about Ilhan Omar, the Democratic congresswoman? Laura Loomer, a prominent MAGA figure, stated, Ilhan Omar is a bloodthirsty Muslim terrorist sympathizer unfit for our nation. Her role in Congress is a national security threat, and she is an internal enemy. So let's dismiss the notion of unilateral blame. It's clear America and the UK too are trapped in a negative cycle. Emotions rise, and upon reaching a boiling point, some agitators express incredulity at the heat. It's time for everyone to dial it back. Social media needs reformation and transformation, with people like Elon Musk responsible for some of these depictions. Don't kid ourselves that this is a problem solely linked to the left, liberalism, or woke ideologies. Pretending so won't resolve or alleviate the issue. This is a moment for everyone to introspect and choose to behave more responsibly. Okay, moving on. To be honest with you, sometimes it feels like the reality I'm living in is completely different from the tale conservatives are trying to tell. Watching this debate and seeing how the right is twisting Charlie Kirk's death, I feel like I've wandered into an alternate reality. The mental gymnastics, the double standards, the revisionism, it's honestly mind-boggling. Let's go back to basics. Conservatives assert with a straight face that political violence, threats, and aggression are purely the left's doing, that Democrats fostered this culture. And I can't help but wonder, did we just ignore the last 10 years? I remember quite clearly. The very moment Donald Trump entered the political arena in 2015, the climate of American politics changed. It wasn't subtle whispers anymore. It was blatant incitement from the podium. Remember it, knock the crap out of him, I'll cover your legal fees. When the looting starts, the shooting starts. It's going to be a bloodbath. These weren't nobodies. That was the sitting president of the United States, the leader of the Republican Party. Language like that from the top is a green light, signaling that violence isn't just acceptable, it's encouraged. Fast forward to today, and an entire arm of the GOP parrots Trump verbatim, emulating his rage, echoing his threats only to turn around shamelessly, and declare, actually, Democrats are the ones promoting violence. Really? I recall the chants of Hang Mike Pence on January 6th, the pipe bombs outside the DNC and RNC, the hammer assault on Paul Pelosi mocked by Donald Trump Jr., as if it was a joking Halloween costume. And I remember Republicans laughing about it. That's not leftist conduct. That's the culture Trump cultivated within his party. Let me be crystal clear here, as this is significant. Do I disapprove of people celebrating Charlie Kirk's death? Absolutely, yes. That medley of people singing and dancing, describing it as ding-dong, the witch is dead, I find it appalling. A man's been murdered. A husband and father to 2 young kids lost his life. His family is grieving. No matter my disagreements with Charlie Kirk's political views, murder remains murder. That boundary doesn't shift based on the victim. But here's the part conservatives shy from, where their credibility unravels. While I denounce those celebrations, let's not ignore that Charlie Kirk himself had no qualms dehumanizing others. He derided George Floyd's death, rallied support for the individual who attacked Nancy Pelosi's spouse, and built his career fanning division, fueling political fires under the guise of patriotism. So when Republicans try to cloak him in sainthood, portraying him as merely a benign truth-teller seeking a civil debate, I must call it as it is, revisionist history. That panel exchange threw the hypocrisy into sharper relief. Louis Goodall stepped in and did something many journalists in America shy away from. He pushed back. He reminded everyone watching that missteps aren't one-sided. The right, too, has crossed lines vocally and proudly, from lawmakers down to Trump's kin. That's not fringe behavior. That's become mainstream Republican culture. When Goodall laid out the facts, guess what happened? The conservative panelist laughed, smirked, because deep down she knows it's indefensible. She knows the record is there. Here's where I stand. Yes, Both sides contribute to the acrimonious escalation, the toxic feedback loop we're in. But be brutally honest, the spark that ignited this fire was Trump. He normalized and mainstreamed this, and now instead of accepting responsibility, conservatives are playing the victim, acting like they're under assault, as if violence flows solely one direction. I refuse to exist in that alternate reality. If the Democrats are to be critiqued for intense rhetoric, so must Trump, Don Jr., Charlie Kirk, Laura Loomer, and every Republican profiting from sowed discord. To do otherwise lacks seriousness. To do otherwise is to practice self-deception. In my reality, facts count. History matters. Human lives have inherent value, regardless of political persuasion. That's my stance. Now over to you. Share your views in the comments. Am I off base? Do you see the same double standards as I do? Or am I overlooking something? Pop your thoughts below, and be sure to click the like button so more people can join in. Read this, and don't forget to hit that like button to help others discover this content. If you're visiting for the first time, subscribe for more truth-telling commentary. I appreciate each and every one of you. See you next time.